Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. Today, we're diving into pages 106 to 140 of our source material. This section really teaches us a completely new way of looking at the world. It's all about moving past that frustrating whack-a-mole game we play with daily problems and starting to see the invisible patterns and structures that are actually running the show. So, here's what we've got lined up. First, we're going to learn to speak the language of interconnection. Then, we'll get our heads around the paradoxes that make this language so powerful. We'll use a 4-level framework to see problems in a new light, learn how to tell a system story, and then, finally, we'll break it all down to its fundamental building blocks, links and loops. All right, let's start with this core idea. Systems thinking isn't just another business tool, it's basically a new language. Our normal way of speaking, subject, verb, object, it's fine for simple things, but it just completely falls apart in the real world, where A causes B, sure, but B is also influencing A, and both of them are tangled up with C and D. This new language is what gives us the grammar for all that complexity. And this new way of thinking is designed to answer this exact question. You know that feeling of being stuck on a treadmill where no matter what you try, the same issues just keep coming back? Well, that's a huge sign that there's a deeper structure at play, and systems thinking is all about how to untangle it. This quote from someone at Federal Express just nails it. They managed to massively improve their customer relations, not because of some top-down corporate mandate, but simply because their people started to think differently. It just goes to show you that the real leverage for change isn't always in new rules, but in changing the stories we tell ourselves and the way we see the world. So what exactly is a system? Well, it's not just a pile of parts. It's a web of interrelationships. The real structure of a company, for instance, isn't the org chart on the wall. No, it's the invisible web of attitudes, decisions, and feedback that makes all the individual people and departments act together as one single whole. Now, as we start using this new language, you've got to prepare for some seriously mind-bending paradoxes. The world of systems just doesn't work in the straightforward linear way we expect it to. In fact, sometimes the easiest answers are actually traps. And this leads to some really surprising rules. For instance, the cause of a problem might be months or even years in the past, and in a totally different part of the system. This is exactly why quick fixes backfire so often. They're just treating a symptom, not the root cause, which pretty much guarantees the problem will be back. It means we have to fight that urge for an easy answer and really embrace looking at the whole messy system to find where the real change can happen. So how do we actually do this? Well, let's walk through a really powerful framework for this, and we'll use the story of a company called Acme to see how it works. We're going to look at a problem through 4 different levels, moving from the obvious surface right down to the hitting root cause. These are the 4 levels. We start at events, which is really just reacting to what's right in front of our face. Then we zoom out a bit to see patterns over time. Deeper still, we start to map the systemic structure that's causing those patterns. And then, at the very core, we try to uncover the mental models, the beliefs and assumptions that hold the whole thing in place. Okay, so at the event level, Acme sees sales are down. So what do? They react. They push out more promotions, they put pressure on the sales team, they try to cut costs. They're treating the symptom, which is a bit like taking a painkiller for a broken leg. Sure, it might provide some temporary relief, but it does nothing to fix the underlying problem, and probably just makes things worse in the long run. Now, moving to the second level, the managers start looking for patterns. They plot their sales and their service problems on a graph over time, and a story starts to take shape. This isn't just a bad quarter, it's a long-term trend. Sales have been slowly bleeding out for a while, just as service complaints have been steadily climbing. So they're seeing the what a lot more clearly now, but they still have no idea why it's happening. Level 3, this is the big aha moment. By mapping out the systemic structure, they finally see the vicious cycle they've created for themselves. Just follow the arrows here. Lower sales lead to intense pressure on the sales team. That pressure makes them overpromise to land new accounts. That, in turn, creates a huge spike in service problems. And guess what? Those problems drive away customers, which leads right back to lower sales. They've discovered that the harder they push, the worse things get. And finally, we get to the deepest level. Why does this loop keep going? Well, it's because of these unexamined mental models. Management believes that pressure is the best way to motivate people. The sales team believes their only job is to get new customers, no matter what it takes. And the service team feels like they're just there to clean up the mess. Until these core beliefs are actually brought out into the open and challenged, that system is never going to change. So, how can we start uncovering these hidden stories in our own work or even our own lives? Let's look at a really simple, but honestly, an incredibly powerful little technique for diagnosis. It's called the 5 whys. You just start with a symptom and you keep asking why over and over again, like a curious child. The real key here is to trace that chain of cause and effect backwards, pushing past the easy answers and the temptation to blame individuals, until you finally arrive at a systemic policy or structure that's the true source of the problem. Here's a great real-world example from Sears. So the symptom was that customer complaints were going through the roof. First, why? Well, it turns out mechanics were systematically overcharging people. Second, why? Because they were under intense pressure from really aggressive sales quotas. Third, why? Corporate had put these policies in place to slash costs and boost profits. And the final why? Because the entire company was under just immense financial pressure from new competitors. See that? In just a few steps, we've gone from a problem in the auto shop all the way up to a high-level strategic crisis. So now that we've seen how to find the stories, let's learn the grammar we need to actually draw them out. It's all about links and loops, which are the two fundamental building blocks of any system you can imagine. The first type is called a reinforcing loop. This is basically the engine of growth and collapse. Think of a snowball rolling downhill. A small action creates a result that encourages more of that same action, which then creates an even bigger result, and on it goes. It's a self-amplifying cycle. This graph really shows why these loops are so powerful and so deceptive. See, our brains are hardwired to expect linear growth, a nice, predictable, straight line. But reinforcing loops create exponential growth, just like compound interest. For a long, long time, it feels like nothing's really happening. And then, all of a sudden, the curve just shoots skyward. When it's working for you, we call that a virtuous spiral of incredible success. But of course, that snowball can roll in the wrong direction, too. This diagram shows a classic, vicious spiral. An overworked team leads to scattered focus, which leads to superficial, quick-fix solutions. Those quick fixes mean problems aren't ever truly solved, so they just pile up, making the team even more overworked. It's a self-fueling disaster. Now, there's another key building block, the balancing loop, which we don't have time to fully explore here, but that's the force that seeks stability, like a thermostat. Most real-world systems are a mix of these two. Okay, so this is all very interesting, but how do we actually put it into practice? Here are a few key pointers for getting started, and, just as important, some common pitfalls to watch out for. The trick is to focus on problems that are chronic and keep coming back. That's the telltale sign of a deeper system at play. You have to resist that powerful urge to immediately jump to a solution. Your first job is just to understand what's going on. And maybe most importantly, you have to shift away from blame. Instead of asking who's messing this up, you need to start asking the much more powerful question, what is it about the system that's causing good people to get these bad results? Ultimately, this brings us right back to where we started. The structures that trap us in these frustrating cycles aren't usually external forces. They are the result of our own decisions, our own policies, and our own deeply held, often totally unexamined beliefs. The moment we change how we see the system, we gain the power to change the system itself. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Pick a stubborn challenge, something in your work or your life. Now, instead of asking, what should I do about this? Try asking a different question. What is the hidden loop? What's the invisible structure that is holding this problem perfectly in place? Seeing that structure, well, that's the first step to changing everything.